PHLY Sports YouTube page. We have a jam-packed show. Of course, a lot to get to surrounding the Super Bowl. We're going to talk about the birds, all the changes, and of course, potentially why Mike McDaniel took the LA Chargers OC job over the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to catch up with NFL Network reporter Omar Ruiz from the Super Bowl in just a few minutes. He has some great insight about Sean Mannion. He covered him as a player with the LA Rams, so we're going to talk to him about that. We're also going to get some of the fun sports prop bets from our gambling expert, Brad Feinberg. We're going to talk about potentially what color Gatorade is going to be dumped on the Super Bowl winning head coach. And, of course, we have to talk about the Sixers situation. Keith Pompey, the Sixers beat writer from the Philadelphia Inquirer, he will join us as well. We're going to hear from Daryl Morey. We're going to hear from Jared McCain about just what went on at the trade deadline with the Sixers and some surprising moves there. Potentially, why did he get rid of Jared McCain? So we're going to talk about that with Keith. We're going to hear from every angle on that aspect. And we're also going to get into the Flyers situation as they head into this Olympic break. And the Flyers have just been a disaster for the last month. And now they have, it feels like a potential issue with Matvei Michkov. So we're going to talk about that and much more. And hopefully your day is going much better than the way my day started. And hopefully if you're in this casino or you're watching online and you're going to place a bet on the Parks app, hopefully you have much better luck than I've had this morning. Take a look. This is how my day started, right? So I'm getting ready for this show, talking to my producer, Julia Hoff, and all I hear is my wife and I just went, what was that? And we run upstairs and we look in our bathroom, and this is what we see. Shattered glass everywhere. That is like an 80-inch run. I don't know what happened. We're just downstairs. My other daughter is sleeping. We're downstairs, and we just hear this shatter, and it's just everywhere. So we've been cleaning up glass for the last 2-3 hours this morning. Anyway, if you're placing some bets today on Super Bowl XLX, again, hopefully you have some better luck than I've had. So Super Bowl XLX is all set. Seahawks, Patriots, Sunday from the Bay Area. And, I got to be honest, I think, and this might just be me, but it doesn't seem as if there's as much hype and excitement around the Super Bowl. And maybe we're in this fishbowl and it's the Eagles aren't in it, and it felt like, okay, the Eagles are going to make back-to-back Super Bowl runs, and they didn't. So you're just kind of over the Super Bowl. I don't know. I just feel like these two teams, the Patriots and Seahawks, just don't have that star power. And I'm rooting for a great game. I'd love to see a great game come down to the wire. And just I just want to see a great game. And like Tom Brady said, and I can't believe he said this, but I don't have a dog in the fight. Can you believe Tom Brady said that, by the way, when asked about the Patriots, saying he doesn't have a dog in the fight? Are you kidding me? All right, so Super Bowl XLX does show you just how fast things change in the NFL. The, not for long league. Super Bowl XLX is a key reminder just how fast things change in the NFL, because this is an unforgiving league. Think about this. 6 of the last 10 Super Bowls featured a team that missed the playoffs the year before. That should hit home to the Philadelphia Eagles. Windows open fast. They close even faster. And look, I think the Eagles window is open and open for years to come when you look at this roster, but they have to survive this bump in the road, and they've done it in the past. They did it when they won the Super Bowl in 2017 during that season, and they struggled the following year and losing to the Saints and Alshon Jeffrey dropping the ball. Then they went through it again when they got to the Super Bowl in 2022 and lost to the Chiefs, and Jalen Hurts had that, MVP-esque performance. They just didn't win. And then they go into 23 and they go through that. And then they bounce back and they win the Super Bowl in 2024. And Nick Sirianni has said time and time again, if not for that adversity, maybe they don't win the Super Bowl in 2024. And now you're facing adversity again. And the Eagles have had this like roller coaster of a ride. But along the way, over the last 20 years, this team, this franchise, this organization has been a steady presence. And this woe is me attitude about the Eagles that some people have and that I hear throughout the week, I just say it's hard to win in this league. Take a step back and just realize it is so hard. But the Eagles still have it in them. And the Eagles still have a championship caliber team. And the notion that the Eagles are this toxic mess and drama, that nobody wants to come here, I just think it is so just short-sighted. And I know they didn't get Mike McDaniel, and I know they didn't get Brian Daboll as their offensive coordinator, and I know from the outside, maybe at times there appears to be, okay, what's going on here? But has Howie Roseman not built up that goodwill and that good faith that he's going to figure it out? I mean, remember how shocking and jarring that was when they drafted Jalen Hurts and you just gave Carson Wentz $100 million? But we don't know every little thing that goes inside that building. And Howie Roseman, in my opinion, has earned that trust to be able to identify an issue and fix it. And the notion that, okay, some people have this idea that Nick Sirianni, no one wants to coach with him. I think that's all baloney. I really do. And sometimes changes need to be made. And a lot has been made this year about the A.J. Brown situation and the frustrations, and A.J. obviously voicing that on social media and Twitch and here and there. But did you see A.J. Brown? He was on the Micah Parsons podcast. I believe it came out yesterday. I saw it last night, saw it a little bit this morning. And he says sometimes change is good. And he didn't mean about him. He meant about the offensive coordinator thing. And he praised Kevin Patullo. But he also said that sometimes change is good, and he's excited for next season with the Eagles and to see what Sean Mannion can do. And he doesn't sound like a guy that's disgruntled. I heard A.J. Brown. He sounds level-headed. He sounds engaged. Talking to Micah Parsons, he called Philadelphia home. A.J. Brown called Philadelphia home and said he was excited for next season. So to me, as we sit here today, a day before the Super Bowl, it does not sound as if A.J. Brown wants to go anywhere else. It sounds like he wants to stay with the Philadelphia Eagles and figure this thing out with Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts and new offensive coordinator Sean Mannion. So I was really pleasantly surprised to hear that from A.J. Brown. And when I saw A.J. Brown pop up with Micah Parsons, I went, oh, no. Like, oh, what is going to happen here? But A.J. said all the right things. And by the way, he seemed sincere. He seemed like a guy that I believe that calling Philadelphia home. And by the way, Parsons said Philadelphia was almost home for him because he said that the Cowboys almost traded him to the Philadelphia Eagles for Jalen Carter and draft picks. And he would have been bummed in the sense of he wanted to play with Jalen Carter. And I think we knew that the Eagles had reached out to the Cowboys to see if they could work out a deal to bring Micah Parsons here. And, of course, it never worked out. And I find it hard to believe that Jerry Jones, the Cowboys owner, would trade Micah Parsons to the Eagles. Anyway, he ends up with the Packers. But I thought that was interesting. Micah Parsons would have been amazing here. I would have loved to see Micah Parsons here. And ends up with the Packers. And, of course, he has ties here and grew up in the Lehigh Valley and went to Penn State. But anyway, I'm not out on the Eagles. And I don't think this team is a toxic, hot mess. I just think they're tweaking things, and sometimes change can be hard, but it's not as if they let the head coach go. They needed to make a change at offensive coordinator. We knew that. So when you look at these Super Bowl teams and you see the change that happened so quickly with New England and Seattle, I mean, they're balanced, right? I mean, they have top 4 in scoring offense and scoring defense. You look at these two teams. We haven't seen this in a Super Bowl since the NFL-AFL merger. That's championship football, and the Eagles have to get back to that. When you look at what the Patriots have done, when you look at the Seahawks have done, that's winning football, and I'm as shocked as anybody that these two teams are here. But, look, it is crazy New England goes from 4-13 last season to the Super Bowl. Sounds impossible, right? It's not. I mean, the Eagles in 2017 did that. Remember the season that they had? They had an awful season in 16. They rebound and win the Super Bowl in 17. They did it with Doug Peterson and Nick Foles. The Eagles, set that blueprint for rapid rebuilds before it was, so-called a trend. So now you have Mike Vrabel trying to follow in that footstep. And I have to believe that I like the Patriots in this game. I do. I like the Patriots to win. And the Eagles have been in this window of, are they a dynasty? Are they not a dynasty? The Eagles, they ended the dynasty with the Chiefs. And maybe the Eagles, so-called, you want to call it a dynasty, ended here with this run. I don't think so. I think the Eagles can get back to the big game next year. I really do, with these small tweaks. And, look, they let Milton Williams go. And so he's now on the Patriots, and he's been tremendous on the Patriots. And Eagles fans know him very well. Won the Super Bowl with the Eagles, was fantastic in the Super Bowl last year. And we're going to get into Milton Williams later in the show. But, only 5 players in NFL history have pulled off this, winning back-to-back Super Bowls with 2 different teams. You have LeGarrette Blount, Chris Long. They did it with the Patriots, and then they did it with the Eagles in 2017. And then, think about it. Like, it's possible, right, that Milton Williams, and you weren't sad to see Milton Williams go, per se. I mean, $100 million, it seemed ridiculous, but he has been a force on that Patriots team. And then you look at Seattle, when you look at these storylines, what Sam Darnold has done, once written off, trying to pull, a Nick Foles redemption kind of story. First year with this team, unexpected Super Bowl run. Cooper Kupp, by the way, he's trying to be in that elite list with Torrey Smith, another former Eagle, as wide receivers who won Super Bowls with 2 different teams. There's a lot of parallels here where I can say these other teams reset, and bam, they're back in the Super Bowl. And I think the Eagles can reset. I don't think it's as drastic as New England. I don't think it's as drastic as Seattle. But changes are coming. And the Eagles hopefully use this, like they said. And I remember what Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts talked about at the end of Hard Knocks. They all said, we're going to be back. And I know it. And I do believe this team is going to get back. And so with the changes that are coming, Sean Mannion, you have to wonder, why did they not get Mike McDaniel? What happened there? So I caught up with NFL Network reporter Omar Ruiz. He is at the Super Bowl covering for the NFL Network. He's at the Seattle Seahawks hotel. That's where he's been stationed all week. And he had some great insight. He covered Sean Mannion for NFL Network when Mannion was a backup quarterback with the Rams. And he covers the Chargers a lot. He does a lot of work with the Chargers. So he has some great insight as why potentially Sean Mannion, some insight there, and why potentially Mike McDaniel went to the LA Chargers, potentially over the Philadelphia Eagles. Some great insight here from NFL Network's Omar Ruiz. Take a listen to this conversation. NFL Network's Omar Ruiz covering Super Bowl XLX, Seattle, New England. What's happening, Omar?
Hey, Jeff. Good to see you, man. It's good to be here. The weather has been perfect. The Northern California conditions setting up for perfect game conditions on Sunday. I think the Seahawks and Patriots pretty much as healthy as you can imagine at this time of year, and both teams seem to be loaded and shaping up for a great game.
I'm still shocked that these 2 teams are the last ones standing. I think if you went into the season to think, okay, the Patriots and the Seahawks are going to be here, I think somebody would think you're crazy, right? I mean, how unexpected is this that these 2 teams are here?
Very, when you consider how both of these teams were thought of coming into the year. Both missed the playoffs last year. There were so many question marks about the Seahawks, given that they won 10 games in Mike Macdonald's first year, but then they get rid of Geno Smith, they get rid of Tyler Lockett, they get rid of DK Metcalf, and then they bring in Sam Darnold, and everybody's thinking, well, he was probably just a one-hit wonder in Minnesota, so I don't know how much you can get from him. DeMarcus Lawrence from Dallas comes in. It seemed like with Leonard Williams, I don't know are they past their prime. So in other words, there were so many questions about a team that had missed the playoffs, most especially at the quarterback position. And then with the Patriots, they won 4 games last year. So I think we all thought that, Mike Vrabel would be able to turn it around, but maybe in 2 or 3 years. But the fact that not only they went from 4 wins to 14 in the regular season, tacked on 3 more in the playoffs, 4 wins to 17 in the season overall. Yeah, it's pretty shocking how both these teams got here. But when you look at how these teams emerged later in the season, in the postseason, not shocking. These 2 teams are fantastic.
Is there still the big buzz around the game? You're at the Super Bowl site. You're at the Seahawks hotel covering them for NFL Network. Is there still that giant buzz around this game? Because in Philadelphia, it just feels like there's just not the buzz. And maybe everyone's just bummed about the birds. But is there the buzz around the Super Bowl when you have these 2 teams that I don't feel like have that so-called star power?
Well, I think in Philadelphia's case, the expectations are such that the Eagles roster is set up to be Super Bowl contenders every year. And so when they're not in it, I wouldn't blame the fan base for not being completely engaged after a disappointing playoff run, in the Super Bowl XLX. But here in the Bay Area in Northern California, it seems to be energized. we're down in San Jose, kind of away from all the fan atmosphere in San Francisco, but I've been going up there for NFL honors and other events, and it's happening. The buzz is there in the city, the scene and the parties and all that, and around here where the teams are staying, it has picked up. The family and friends are in town now for the weekend. The wrapping up practices and all that. So like that part of the atmosphere has picked up. So yeah, so there is a buzz around here, but I think it goes back to what we were just talking about in terms of the surprise of these two teams being here in terms of where they began to start this season. And I think it's because there weren't bona fide stars yet. Everyone knows Sam Darnold from his New York Jets days, but they think of the failures and not necessarily the fantastic football he's played the last couple of years. So what a redemption story that could be if he wins on Sunday. And then Drake May, promising as a rookie and now MVP candidate, obviously was second to Matthew Stafford. So I think these are teams that are positioned to become the sort of buzz type of teams in the NFL going forward, but certainly coming into the season, they were not. And maybe that's why some of, the national perception may be that way.
Sure. And, covering the Seahawks this week, going into Super Bowl LX, I mean, Sam Darnold's story is amazing. I mean, Joe Douglas, was running the Jets at the time, gives up on Sam Darnold, who was supposed to be, the savior of the Jets, who have just been awful for decades. He goes on this journey. He ends up in Minnesota, does what he does with the Vikings. They let him go. Now with the Seahawks, I mean, I read this is that Darnold managed to accomplish something that no quarterback in NFL history has done, winning 14 games in back-to-back seasons on two different teams. So what is it about him that you have uncovered or learned this week about his mentality, his makeup to keep going when things get tough?
It's very simple, Jeff. And this is something that it's hard to hear because we are so used to covering these alpha dog, chip on their shoulder, hyper competitive athletes. Sam Darnold's just a good old nice guy. He really is. And just going back to 2023, when he was with the 49ers and really attributed being the backup to Brock Purdy in that Super Bowl run for San Francisco, where they eventually lost to the Chiefs, and just connecting with what it means to be a good teammate and to support Brock Purdy in those days and be ready if his number was called. And then, going to Minnesota and really having a chance to compete there. And that was his situation when he signed with Minnesota, because they had just drafted J.J. McCarthy, and then McCarthy gets hurt in training camp, and then it was his job and did the most with it. And so I think just appreciating all of the adversity that he had early in his career, just treating people right, wanting to be a good teammate has really resonated with his teammates, both in San Francisco, Minnesota, and Seattle. I'm not sure, how all that was in New York or Carolina, in his stops before, but it certainly has with the Seahawks. And Jeff, they love the guy. They just can't say enough good things about him. And I keep asking what that means to him. And he just kind of deflects it. He's like, in other words, there's nothing special about how I am. He just has this mentality that he treats people nicely, like his parents raised him to be. He tries to connect with his teammates in that way. And it certainly has resonated, and they can't be more happy for him, and they can't want to play harder for him the way that you've seen them embrace him this year.
It's just amazing. I mean, a lot of guys could have been just out of the league, and then he does what he's done the last 2 years. Speaking of quarterbacks, I thought this was interesting. Did you see what Tom Brady said when he was asked about the Patriots on his podcast? Did you hear that?
About he doesn't have a dog in the fight? Is that
yeah, I'm like, I saw a bunch of Patriots legends kind of going, like, are you serious? I mean, is that surprising? I mean, I know that he's a minority owner with the Raiders and he's on Fox's broadcast, but I'm like, Tom Brady is a Patriots legend. How are you not cheering for the Patriots?
I can't imagine that either. And maybe it's because he doesn't want to rub the Raiders the wrong way. And now that he's
but the Raiders running that organization.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but maybe there's just this mentality when you are part of another organization, they can't necessarily cheer for a different organization, even though that was your same.
There is a statue. There is a Tom Brady statue in Foxborough.
Hey, I get it. I'm just trying to think of how he could say that and not, because even like Robert Spillane, a current Patriots player, said he was offended by that. and couldn't believe that Tom Brady had said that. So for somebody who throughout his career had been as calculated with his words as Tom Brady was, and in command of every press conference that he ever gave, for him to say that, there's got to be a message behind it. We just can't figure it out what it is at this point. And maybe it's eventually going to take more of the reins of the Raiders, and didn't want him openly cheering for the Patriots maybe to come back to haunt him one day.
Yeah, speaking of things that are a little out there, you've covered a lot of Super Bowls in your career. What are your favorite crazy questions during Super Bowl Media Day this year? What are some of the crazy ones that stick out?
Well, here's a
And would
funny.
you ask any? Have you asked any of those crazy questions?
No, I never asked the crazy ones. I kind of observe and I pay attention. I try to listen for the crazy ones because usually I'm on Good Morning Football the next morning recapping the opening night craziness. So I'm trying to keep track of all the funny stories. The one from this year that stood out to me was shortly after Roger Goodell had announced that the NFL was returning to Mexico City after a few years away while they renovated the stadium there for the World Cup. Jackson Smith and Jigba was asked at opening night about potentially playing in Mexico, and he starts giving his answer, and he's like, oh, he would love that. He loves vacationing in Mexico. He loves the food, the culture, the people, all that. And he's like, I love it so much, it feels like I'm a little Mexican. And Guillermo from the Jimmy Kimmel Show happened to be kind of working his way in the audience. He didn't ask the question about Mexico, but he jumps in and says, hey, I'm a little Mexican too. And the whole place started, roaring with laughter. And Guillermo's one of those guys that he seemingly asked the funny questions. He asked Mike Vrabel, you played for the Patriots, you coached the Patriots, what's next? You're going to marry the Patriots? Something like that. And it's so funny because a lot of the guys, Mike Vrabel wasn't one of these guys. He just kind of answered it straight. But a lot of the media members around, when they take themselves so seriously, they're rolling their eyes. They're like, what kind of weird question is this? I was like, that's what opening night is all about. It's all these silly, fun questions. And, but it's kind of funny to see some of the people's reaction to those funny questions.
Yeah, the most ridiculous one I heard is I heard the Patriots getting asked, is this a must-win game? I'm like I get the Guillermo stuff, but come on, must win? Like no, it's not. No,
that's my guy Dave Damashek, and that's a bit. When he was at NFL Network, he started asking that, and just to see what people's reaction is, and
that's a bit. Okay.
And yeah, okay. So people still fall for it. And Mike Vrabel, again, I saw he was asked that, and he didn't really bite on the funniness of that question.
Yeah. So obviously I wanted to ask you about, what's going on with the Eagles, kind of the national perspective. They've made some changes. Sean Mannion, the new offensive coordinator, you know him a little bit from covering him early in his career. What can you tell us about Sean Mannion and what he's like, kind of how he's wired?
Well, he's a smart player, and that's why he had such a long career as a backup in the NFL. Typically, the guys that last without playing too much, you either are a backup for a long time because you showed flashes that you can play at a really high level, so people keep you around just in case they need that, or you're very cerebral. And someone like Chase Daniel, for example, can stay on a roster, can help develop quarterbacks, can help install an offense. And I think Sean Mannion is that type, where he worked under Sean McVay early in McVay's tenure there, really learned that system, and obviously felt comfortable with it. And then he goes to Minnesota, and under Gary Kubiak, is assistant head coach, and Kevin Stefanski is the offensive coordinator. Drew Petzing was on that staff, who most recently was the Cardinals offensive coordinator and now current Lions offensive coordinator. So in other words, a lot of bright football minds that he's learned under, and different systems. Not everybody has been in that McVay Shanahan tree that he's learned from. So I think being exposed to all those different offenses, playing in the NFL for a long time, I think when you go to a locker room as established as the Eagles have, obviously many of them are Super Bowl champions. Many of them have played in a couple of Super Bowls. I think the fact that he played in the NFL will carry some weight in that offensive meeting room. And we'll have to see just how he is as a play caller, because obviously it'll be the first time doing that. But I think between his reputation, his experience as a player, his experience under some of these bright offensive minds should fit well with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Was there any shock there that Mike McDaniel, I know you cover the Chargers as well, that Mike McDaniel went to LA, went to the Chargers? Obviously, they have a good quarterback, a good head coach, and a good team. But why do you think Mike McDaniel might be a better fit with the Chargers than, let's say, the Philadelphia Eagles?
Well, I think if you're Mike McDaniel, you look at the talent of Justin Herbert, and if you can be the one to unlock his true greatness, because you look at Justin Herbert as great as he's shown, as much passing yards and touchdowns and statistics that he's put up, he's yet to win big in the playoffs, and he's not even close to the accomplishments of someone like Jalen Hurts or even a Joe Burrow who's played in the Super Bowl, and Josh Allen, who's at least played in a couple AFC championship games. So if you can be the coordinator to unlock that, I think if you go to Philadelphia and you help Jalen Hurts win a Super Bowl, it's like, oh yeah, well, he already won a Super Bowl. It's, not elevating in any way. So I think the fact that you have an opportunity to work with Justin Herbert, someone who everybody thinks is as talented as any quarterback in the NFL, and to truly win and win big there, I think would mean maybe a lot more to somebody to go, as opposed to going to a place where they've already won big.
Yeah, and is there a feeling at the Super Bowl when things come up that have been going on with the Eagles? There's been a lot of changes. Offensive coordinator, Jeff Stoutland, their offensive line coach, legendary coach, steps away after 13 seasons. What is the kind of the feeling from afar about the Eagles? Right now, it seems like there's a lot of drama, at least locally. Is that the feeling nationally, or is it just we're just in this fishbowl and upset we're not at the big game?
Well, I think everybody thinks that the talent is still there, and I think more than anything else, there's just questions around the team and how they regroup from the disappointing year. And if you look at the pattern of the Eagles, 22 they go to the Super Bowl, 23 they kind of fall off and have that disappointing finish to the season. 24 they bounce back, they win the Super Bowl. 25 they still get to the playoffs, but another disappointing finish. And so part of the formula is 26. Then they'll go to the Super Bowl again. So I think, they have the talent still there. As long as Howie's running the show, I think you feel confident and comfortable that they're going to have a really talented roster. And it's just finding that right fit at coordinator with Shane Steichen getting a head coaching job, Kellen Moore getting a head coaching job after the Super Bowl appearances. I think that job for that reason is really appealing. If you win as offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles, you're probably going to get a head coaching job, and perhaps John Mannion's next on deck for that.
Yeah, and last thing for you, your keys to the game for each team to win Super Bowl 60.
Well, I think they're tied together. I think the Patriots defense is significantly underrated. I think the defense that we had talked about all year long, the Seahawks, the Broncos, the Texans, and I think the Patriots were underrated because when people started paying attention to the Patriots, when they couldn't ignore them as they went on that crazy winning streak during the season, they were without Milton Williams when people started to pay attention. And you guys know how good Milton Williams is.
Well, he was brilliant in the Super Bowl last year.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And he's been their best player, I would say, on the entire roster in the postseason. And when he came back and dominated the way he did here in the playoffs, people wrote off that first game against the Chargers by saying, oh, they don't have an offensive line. When they dominated the Texans, people said, oh, C.J. Stroud and that offense really struggled all year. They weren't much of a challenge. Then against Denver, Bo Nix was out in the playing conditions. And they really haven't given the Patriots just due. But I think with Milton Williams playing in that postseason form, and Christian Gonzalez has been healthy too, and the pairing with Carlton Davis there, that Patriots defense is elite. They will keep the game close. And then it comes down to Sam Darnold. Can the Patriots force turnovers against Darnold and force him into the guy that led the league in turnovers this year? Or will Darnold play a clean game and be the guy that threw 346 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions against the Rams? He hasn't thrown a pick in the last 3 games, which have been the biggest of the season. Remember, Jeff, that Week 18 game against the 49ers where they had to win for the number 1 seed on the road and the NFC West. He wins that, doesn't turn the ball over. They destroy the Niners the next game in the divisional round, and obviously win that squeaker, and he had to make big plays down the stretch against the Rams in the NFC Championship game. So if we get that version of Sam Darnold, I think Seahawks win. But if the Patriots can turn the ball over and get more possessions for Drake May and that offense and Josh McDaniels as play caller, I think the Patriots can sneak that one out.
Yeah, Patriots are getting their money's worth so far with Milton Williams. I saw that contract last year, and I'm like, wow, that's a lot of money for Milton Williams. And sure enough, he has them in the Super Bowl. All right, Omar
He's living
Ruiz.
up to it.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Great insight on Super Bowl 60. Of course, does a great job on NFL Network. Thanks, Omar. So I thought that was interesting what Omar Ruiz was saying about Sean Mannion. Very smart player, he called Mannion when he covered him with the LA Rams. And I thought it was also interesting what he said about Mike McDaniel, perhaps wanting to go to the LA Chargers because of Justin Herbert. So maybe Justin Herbert is viewed as a better quarterback in a better situation as Jalen Hurts. And I think they're similar. I think both teams are similar. And I would tell you, I think there's less pressure. External pressure is less with the LA Chargers than the Philadelphia Eagles. And maybe it's just a better fit for everybody. And maybe Mike McDaniel's too kind of quirky to be here in Philadelphia. And so we're going to see. And look, the Eagles, they've made changes before. No one heard of Nick Sirianni, right? And he comes here, he wins a Super Bowl. Doug Peterson was considered, like the worst head coaching hire, people would say. And Mike Lombardi went out and said that, which was ridiculous. And Doug wins the first Super Bowl here in Philadelphia. So I believe that Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles front office can figure this out. And we're going to get into the Milton Williams situation. He said that the Philadelphia Eagles didn't even offer him a deal, so he goes to the Patriots. But I want to talk about the other changes with Jeff Stoutland. I mean, Stoutland's resume as the Eagles offensive line coach is one of the most impressive resumes in modern NFL history. 13 seasons with the Philadelphia Eagles. He helped build 2 Super Bowl winning offensive lines. He developed talents like Lane Johnson and Jason Kelsey, Brandon Brooks, and Jordan Mailata. He found Jordan Mailata. The guy had never played football. He was a rugby player in Australia. And what he's done with Jordan Mailata to turn him into a stud left tackle cornerstone is unbelievable, okay? Unbelievable. And I think when the news first came out, everybody was shocked. Jason Kelsey was like, whoa, and then even Jordan Mailata. And so our PHL crew that is out at the Super Bowl on Radio Row, they caught up with Jordan Mailata, and and he was heartbroken. He was in a little shock. So I want you to listen to this. Here's Jordan Mailata talking about Jeff Stoutland walking away as Philadelphia Eagles offensive line coach.
Bawled my eyes out. I just immediately talked to Stout, and I couldn't formulate a sentence. I was just crying.
Well, you can tell by just looking up that we have the big man here, Jordan Mailata. And Jordan, first of all, welcome to Radio Row. Hey, I think we got to start with what was your reaction when you found out the news about Stout yesterday?
Immediately, I bawled my eyes out. I was just immediately talked to Stout, and I couldn't formulate a sentence. I was just crying. And I told him, come see him as soon as I got back home. A lot of people asking me to make a statement right now. I just, online at least, on social media, I'm saying I don't think there are enough words to put in a social media post of what I think of the man and how much he's helped change my life. So I'm to be honest, selfishly, I'm very heartbroken, but I know the man needs it, man, needs a rest.
Well, you are certainly allowed to grieve however you need to. And not to speak for you, but it's hard to look around here, see all the people following you, all the success you've had, and not think, would you have even been here without Stout?
No, that's what I'm saying. There's not enough words that I can speak about this man to show how grateful I am that he helped change my life. He's a big reason.
I guess just for people who maybe aren't as familiar with it, how much do you attribute your development to it?
If it was Stout, if I could speak in Stoutlandism, he would say 50%, because 50% he waited for me at the halfway mark, and I had to mute him there. That's how he always said it. It's not me, it's us. And yeah, man,
Was this something that was on your radar as a possibility, or did it sort of blindside you?
That one blindsided me.
Yeah.
It's,
I'm curious always when something like this happens, what is like the text thread like with you and the rest of the offensive linemen? Are you all guys like what WTF? Like, how does that work?
well, I'm pretty grateful that I have Lane and Landon. They're in San Fran right now, so I was able to connect with those boys last night and
Kind of grieved to go like an Irish wake.
yeah. I felt like we lost our dad, man. It's crazy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was good, shared trauma.
Yeah.
We just weren't talking about all the times we had with Stout, but I think we're all gonna try and make time to go see him once we get back in Philly after the game, and yeah.
Have you gotten to even the point of wondering what it will be like to play for a different coach?
Very daunting thinking about it, to be honest. I'll be entering year 9. Isn't that crazy to say? Entering year 9 next year, or this season coming, and we'll see how this goes. I'm excited, but also scared, man. I'll be honest, I'm nervous.
And I don't blame Mailata. And like everybody, my first reaction when Stoutland announces he's walking away was, whoa, what's going on here? But I would tell you, and maybe this is not a popular opinion, but if you take a step back and just go, the offensive line was not very good last year. And I know they were banged up, and I know they had injuries, and I know Lane Johnson was out, the second half of the season, but they were not good. The offensive line of the Philadelphia Eagles was not good. And they're tweaking this offense. And if Stoutland, his style does not gel with Mannion, and the Eagles do figure this out and have this prolific offense, nobody at home is going to care. And I'm sorry, I hate to say it, but nobody at home is going to care that Jeff Stoutland is not the offensive line coach. And so I don't feel like people should be getting hung up on this. I think at first, yes, it is jarring, and he's an amazing coach. And I'm not blaming him for this. And I don't think he should be blamed for their issues by any means. But they weren't good. And remember, the Eagles walked away from Andy Reid, one of the greatest coaches in NFL history. And it was time. They walked away from Doug Peterson, who just won you a Super Bowl. They walked away from Carson Wentz. The Eagles are willing to make these difficult decisions. And I'm not saying it was the Eagles, but they're obviously were not on the same page. And Stoutland just goes, okay, I've had enough. But if they can get back to the Super Bowl and they can get back to being this prolific offense with Sean Mannion, and they can do different things that maybe just don't blend with Stoutland, I hate to say it, I hate to be cold, but who cares? I mean, the run game last year was not working. Saquon Barkley did not have a good year. A lot of that was on the offensive line. And I'm not saying Jeff Stoutland lost a step, but the offensive line is a big reason why there was this huge dip in the run game. Look at these numbers. Look at the Eagles' run game comparison between 2024 and 2025. A significant drop-off. The Eagles' O-line was among the elite in 2024. Left tackle Jordan Mailata finished one of the highest offensive grades in the league, topping Pro Football Focus's run blocking and overall grades for linemen. I mean, Mailata's run blocking grade was historically high. Okay, Saquon Barkley rushed for over 2,000 yards. Okay, Barkley alone, 5.8 yards per carry average. Okay, but this year as a whole, after you have 29 rushing touchdowns a year ago, you take a major nosedive. And again, I'm not blaming it on Jeff Stoutland, but the offensive line was not good. And if they're taking a step backwards and this will fix it, then I think you have to go for it and have to say, I'm sorry, but you have to do what's best for the Philadelphia Eagles. And, Stoutland, as reported, lost some of his ability to be the run game coordinator, but it wasn't working. And as I said, Saquon Barkley's rushing numbers dropped. They dropped. The Eagles as a whole, the offensive line dropped. Look at the Buffalo Bills game. That was a perfect example. They had 0 points in the second half. Their offensive line got beat off the snap every single time. And so football's a business results. And if Jeff Stoutland did not have a good season, And as great as he's been, sometimes it's just time. It's just time. And I don't think you can go out there and replace a Jeff Stoutland with somebody that is going to be better by any means. But if it all gels and all comes together with this offense, then I'm all for it. I'm all for it. There's no denying Jeff Stoutland, a legendary offensive line coach. His fingerprints are all over those championships, all over these amazing careers, as we talked about with Lane Johnson and Jason Kelsey and Jordan Mailata. Brandon Brooks came out of nowhere and had amazing seasons in Philadelphia. But you got to come up with the results. And Stoutland, he built that dynasty, but it is a thankless career and job in the NFL. And I just say, if this is going to help them turn the page, then you got to turn the page. And be cold-hearted about it and just say, we got to look to the future. So that's my take on the Jeff Stoutland situation. Again, amazing coach. Fantastic. Everyone loves him. You heard it from Jordan Mailata, who was bawling his eyes out. So the guy's fantastic. All right, let's go back to talking about Super Bowl XLX. We're going to bring in our gambling expert with great insight, as always. Brad Feinberg joins us. Brad, of course, a great follow on Brad's Best Bets on X. What's happening, Brad?
Great to see you, buddy. What are you excited for the game tomorrow?
Yeah, and I was saying earlier when the show started, I don't feel like there's as much excitement and buzz. Maybe it's because the Eagles aren't in it, and I expected the Eagles to be here. There's not as much buzz. But Seattle, 4.5-point favorites in this game. Do you still like Seattle in this game?
No, actually, Jeff. No, I like New England. I like New England quite a bit. And as I said, as someone who actually these were the two teams I felt for the last 12 weeks would go to the Super Bowl.
Really? We talked about
that
last week.
I know
I'm just not feeling it.
You disagreed on Seattle. You said you didn't believe in Darnold, and I thought these were the two best teams.
Nobody
really
believed
did.
in Darnold. I mean, like nobody. Like, you think about it. Like the Jets didn't believe. The Jets didn't believe in Darnold. Joe Douglas lets him go. The Vikings don't believe in Darnold, even though he wins 14 games with them last year. I don't think anyone does.
Well,
but
you see these gray hairs. That's because of me backing Sam Darnold far too many times, because I thought Sam Darnold would get to this kind of place. I did. I backed him. It was like the Charlie Brown thing with the field goal. He'd pull it off me. I'm like, oh my God, I'm a moron. I can't believe I fell for it again. But I thought the last 2 years, Jeff, specifically, I think his play in the regular season has been outstanding. And what happened was he, last year for Minnesota, last game of the year against Detroit, he was god-awful. Playoff game against the Rams, he was god-awful. First game of the year this year against the Rams, he was god-awful. So all the criticism was fair, and I was like, man, I guess maybe it's just one of those things where the pressure is too much for him, and maybe he just can't do it on the bigger stage. But you know what? Credit to him, because this is one of those cases, Jeff, you're right. No one said he could do it. He was getting a lot of guff from everyone saying, you stink, you can't do it in a big spot. Credit to him, he did. But I think in this game, Jeff, I think these teams are dead even. I think that the fact that Seattle's this big of a favorite, to me, again, I think New England has been every bit as good. I know the schedule.
I guess, can I ask you though? Do you think New England wins this? Are we talking about? Do you think New England wins this game, or do you think they win the gambling odds? Like what?
And to be honest, both. But
okay,
much more confident in the spread. I'll go 2016 New England. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. My biggest bet, Jeff, as I said last week on the show, and it's going to make or break me. Hopefully make. I have a lot of money on under 13.5 first half for Seattle, under 25.5 in the game. I think this is going to be a much more difficult spot for Seattle to just get there. Look, Seattle was second in the NFL, Jeff, in points per game. Second. But as good as they were offensively, as much as I've backed this team all year, to me, this is not like the Kurt Warner Rams, Jeff, the Peyton Manning Broncos or Colts. It's not a Patrick Mahomes Chiefs. To me, it's not that kind of prolific offense. They've been really good because they've gotten off to leads and they've played smart. The defense has put them in good spots. But I think that they're going to struggle in this game quite a bit. I don't think they're going to have much success offensively. I think New England, because they can stop the run, Jeff, They have an elite cornerback in Gonzalez. I think they have a better chance to slow down JSN than the average team does. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. It wouldn't surprise me. It's a little similar to that game, Jeff, we saw between the Rams and the Patriots of like 7-8 years ago when there was no touchdown scored by the Rams. I think it was 13-3. I think it's going to be a low-scoring, tight affair that most people are going to say is kind of boring.
So it's a low-scoring game in your opinion.
I think so.
Right now, the over-under is 45.5. So are you taking the under?
Yeah, I am, but it's funny, Jeff.
But you said 26-20, right? So you're taking
no. It's at 2016.
Oh, 2016. Okay, I can't hear.
20 to 16. Yeah.
There's lots of slot machines and going.
Exactly.
I can't. Everyone's winning here. I can't hear.
You deserve a jackpot. But what I was going to say is, I do like under 45.5 points, Jeff. I do. But the reason I played under 25.5 versus for team total for Seattle versus under 45.5 is because I think the teams are dead even. I'd rather take, in essence, by taking under 25.5, that's kind of like getting under 51, right? Because I'm getting one team under that I consider to be no worse or no better than the team they're playing. So I'd rather just focus on them because I think they're going to struggle offensively. I do think the game's going to go under, but I'd rather just I'm going to dare this team because 26 is a dead number. No team ever scores 26, Jeff. Now I'm probably jinxing myself, but I'll dare them to score 27 points here, and I don't think they do it.
All right, so Brad, you're going the safe bet in your opinion, or in your mind, is that the Patriots are going to win, and it's going to be under 45.5.
Yep.
And so when you look at that, so you feel strongly about that. Do you feel as strongly about that as you do the Gatorade color that's going to be dumped on the game-winning head coach?
Well, I'll tell you what I do. I do feel strong. The national anthem, Jeff, under 125 seconds. Got some information on that one. If that's still up there anywhere else.
Okay, so you like
125 seconds.
Okay, 125 seconds, and then so I saw the Gatorade one, and so I guess orange is the favorite at last check. So orange is the favorite, then purple, yellow, green, lime, then blue, clear water, and then red, pink. And I guess I would say if you know, wouldn't it be as simple as if you know what color the Seahawks drink, or you know what color the Patriots drink?
Yeah, there's probably a way to find this out, Jeff. There has to be a way, like the guy who is Mr. Gatorade, who brings out the Gatorade for each of these teams. There has to be a way to say, okay, what's the color of Gator? I mean, this is a bet. I'm surprised, and I don't know someone, but there has to be someone who knows someone. I'm surprised this is a bet that they even offer because it's so information based that I would think it's, dare I say, if you know the right person, easy to get a bet on it, just like you said, Jeff.
Yeah, and the same can be said for, okay, what's Bad Bunny's first song during the halftime show, right? Like, it'd be the same deal. So what are some of the weirdest, craziest Super Bowl bets that you think are out there? Some fun ones that are just weird and odd. Is it the Bad Bunny? Is it Mac Hollins showing up barefoot? I saw that. I saw one with like Stephon Diggs proposed to Cardi B after the game.
Oh man!
What are some of the weird ones that you've seen?
Well,
and have you put any money? Are you confident about any of these bets?
No, it's funny you should say, Jeff. I listen again, and I respect everyone who does this recreationally and they do it for fun, and that's 99.9% of the listeners right now. That's what they do, and that's awesome and that's great. But for me, Jeff, for me personally, I'm not looking for recreational fun bets. I'm just trying to strictly make money. If there's edge, I'm looking to make money. What you did say, Jeff, I did bet the under in the national anthem because I believe I have pretty decent information that it is gonna go under the 125 seconds, which is what I bet.
And Brad Feinberg right here with a little insider trading right
now.
Yes,
every now and then.
Brad's going to get locked up.
Insider trading. Well, it did get, I was able to get down a decent amount. I wish I could get, that's the kind of bet I wish I could get as much as I could get on it because, again, it's information based. And when you get something that's information based, it's not like, oh, Brad, who do you like? Seahawks or Patriots? Well, I have an opinion, but it's just that, an opinion. But when you have information, that's a much different story. And I think it's going to go under the national anthem, but out of these quote unquote fun bets we talk about. But I really don't get too involved, Jeff, in most of the these kind of like Cardi B bets and stuff like that with Stephon Diggs. Yeah, fun bets or the Gatorade bet I would bet if I had some information, but I don't have that information. But man, Jeff, if I did, or if you know someone, give me a freaking call.
I will do so. I mean, Matt Collins, that seems like a pretty easy one, that he's going to show up barefoot to the Super Bowl, especially if he's doing it in Buffalo or he's doing it in New England barefoot.
Why wouldn't he do it?
Right. And so, Matt Collins, former Eagles receiver, he started learning that here. So he brought in these guys. I think he was saying he brought in these guys from New Zealand or Australia or somewhere that, kind of like teaching him like to be like centered with the earth. And I just think, and I had this happen to me today, we showed it in the beginning of the show, I had glass shatter in my bathroom this morning, just shattered everywhere, like this 80-foot-inch run of glass of my vanity mirror. And I'm thinking, all I think about Matt Collins every time is I go, how's he not like afraid that he's a football player? He's going to walk on glass, like from the parking lot.
I agree with you,
and I go like, okay, I get it, maybe on the field and things like that, but to walk in barefoot. But I think the Matt Collins bet is an easy one. Like, I think that's, of course he's going to walk in barefoot. The game's in San Francisco or Santa Clara, so of course he's going to walk in barefoot. That's an easy prop, or as my daughter uses, cartoony. She likes to use the word cartoony. That's a cartoony bet to me. All right. So what are some prop bets out there that you think are safe bets for anyone listening, anyone watching, that you think are, hey, I think this is a lock? Are there any prop bets out there that you go, well, this is a lock?
Jeff, let me just say, my friend, and I say this to everyone watching, please know, no such bet I ever will say is a lock. I always say I do my best to give people good information. I do my best to hopefully have you win, but no such thing as a lock. Please know that any single bet can lose. So please, that's saying bet responsibly, never bet over your head. No such thing as a lock. Here are some bets that I did do, though, and again, none of them being locks, Jeff, but things I did like. I bet Ramondre Stevenson over 2.5 receptions. Had to lay about $1.40 juice, but I think it's worth it. He's been so involved in the receiving game, Jeff, and the running game, but so involved in the receiving game recently. Henderson is not the third down back anymore. I think he gets his 3 catches. Matt Collins, the aforementioned Matt Collins, Jeff, I bet under 2.5 catches. Do not think he gets 3 catches here. I bet Drake May's under in rushing. Seattle plays a lot of his own defense. What's that mean, Jeff? That means that some of those big runs running won't be their own coverage. A lot of it's like, bet down by a lot of pros, but
it seems like we were losing you there for a second. Repeat that real quickly, Brad. We were losing your signal.
Kenneth Walker unders. I think Kenneth Walker over unders are were too high. They were opened at 84, still at 74. I think he's going to finish in the 60s or less, to be honest. I don't think Kenneth Walker gets there. And I talked about Ramondre Stevenson. I like his overs. In terms of the receiving game, I think he's going to get 3 catches. And I do think, Jeff, A.J. Barner gets 3 receptions or more. I think JSN may be a little bit harder for him in this game. And their second leading receiver is A.J. Barner. I think he can get 3 receptions. And the Patriots are not been great against the tight end.
Yeah, and Sam Darnold, the favorite to win Super Bowl MVP. Of course, Drake May is right there behind him. So, all right, Brad.
I did get Drake May over 213.5 passing yards. That was a big bet for me as well, Jeff. He went over 12 of his last 13 games. 12 of his last 13 games, he went over this total. The 3 playoff games, I'm just going to throw out the Denver game because of the weather. I just am. It's just my opinion. He went way over against the Chargers, way under against the Texans. But again, Seattle, when they played a passing quarterback this year, Jeff, I did a deeper dive on this. He gave up 258 to Brissett, 258 to Trevor Lawrence, 160, I think, to Stafford, 450 to Stafford, 390 to Stafford, 360 to Baker. They've gone over 6 to 7 times of people getting at least 214 yards against them. The only time was Stafford, who got like 61 of the games. You can't run on this Seattle team. Drake May, I think people are forgetting, the guy just came in second in MVP by a half a vote. He gets 214 yards.
All right, Brad Feinberg, great insight there. Seattle Seahawks 4.5-point favorites to beat the Patriots. But, of course, Brad, as we talked about, likes the Patriots in this game. All right, Brad Feinberg, we'll see you right back here next Saturday on Bet.
I appreciate you, Jeff. Good luck to everyone out there. Thanks again, Jeff.
You too. Great seeing you, Brad. Brad Feinberg, of course, a great follow on X at Brad's Best Bets. We appreciate the insight there. All right, let's turn our attention to the Sixers situation. Of course, Sixers, they traded Jared McCain away to Oklahoma City. They get back a first-round pick and 3 second-round picks. And I think it was a little jarring, that they didn't do anything more. And they even traded away a young player they just drafted in the first round a few years ago. But as Daryl Morey said yesterday, that I'm quite confident that they're selling high. Obviously, time will tell. And I got to tell you, I agree with Daryl Morey. Like, Jared McCain, I don't think he can play. I just don't. I don't think he can play. I think there's confidence issues with Jared McCain. I think he sounds soft and delicate, and he's not in the rotation. He's not in the rotation. And Jared McCain's not going to get you to the NBA Finals. He's barely playing. Jared McCain is not going to take this team to the next level. DJ Edgecombe is the guy with Tyrese Maxey. And if you can go out and get a first-round pick in 3 seconds and maybe turn that to something else, which is what Daryl Morey said he was going to try to do, I'm all for it, right? I'm all for it because they were trying, from what Daryl Morey said, was to use those picks for Jared McCain and turn that into something that could be like a big splash that would move the needle. I want you to listen to what Daryl Morey said yesterday when he was just, I won't say getting peppered, but asked, as fans seemed upset trading away Jared McCain. Here's his response. Listen to Daryl Morey.
I'm quite confident we were selling high. Yeah. Obviously, time will tell. But the only other high point, and we weren't looking to sell, I'll be frank. Like, teams came to us with aggressive offers for him, and you could say, yeah, that's because he's a good player. I agree with that. We thought this return was above, for the future value for our franchise, what we could get. So the only higher point would have been during his run last season. But otherwise, we feel like we did time this well. We think he has a tremendous future. Wish him well. I do want to say that I understand the reaction of the fans, but I feel like that comes from, folks are excited about this team, and that's why we've had this reaction. We understand the fan reaction. The move, obviously, the big move was with Jared. Because we're playing well, we were trying to upgrade the team and add to the team now. That was goal number one. Obviously, no deal materialized, including using the picks we got from the Jared deal. We were trying to. That's why we did that move a little early. We're trying to reuse those draft picks to add now. We do feel like this deal sets us up better in the future, but we understand that we were looking to add now, and nothing materialized. We were trying to add to the team, and we didn't find a deal that made sense, that we thought could move the needle on our ability to win this year. The CBA pressures were felt, up and down the league. We see Jared as someone who is more likely to help a team in the future. I think that's fairly obvious. I think he has a bright future. We thought that the draft picks we got will help us more in the future and could have helped us this deadline in terms of the picks we got were offered to many teams, and nothing materialized for a player that we thought could move the needle with those picks now. But we feel like going forward, those picks will help us build the team in the future. in a good way. That return is for a starter quality player on a good team. It's actually above that. We do a lot of analysis on how we think things will play out both here and around the league going forward in terms of the quality of play, what kinds of returns will return, what players in the future. And the bottom line is Jared's a player who is a great future bet and a great potential great player, and we wish him luck. We feel like this return sets us up better to set up the team in the future better. That doesn't address our team now. So we did want to add now, and it didn't happen. So I think that's a fair reaction. And then I think it's a fair reaction to go back to Kyle's point. Did you time this well? Is this a fair return? All I can say is we do a lot of work on this, and we feel like it was well above that and well above what will help us down the road.
All right, so that's Daryl Morey talking about why he traded away Jared McCain to the Oklahoma City Thunder and only bringing back picks, and why they did basically nothing else to improve this team right now. So I want to bring in Keith Pompey, Sixers beat writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer, does an amazing job covering this team. He's as plugged in about the Philadelphia 76ers than anyone else. Keith, how's it going today?
Hey, it's going well. How you been, man?
Great. I appreciate you joining us. So we just heard from Daryl Morey there explaining yesterday why they made the move with Jared McCain. What are your thoughts? And do you agree with the Sixers' decision to move Jared McCain, a young player that, hasn't had a great year, has had a lot going on with the injuries and things like that, and they bring back the draft picks? What is your take on the whole situation?
First off, my take is I feel like they made that move so they could get under the luxury tax, right?
Because he said it wasn't the case, but why do you believe that?
He said that. Because when you look at it, you made a pick. You got a pick. You got draft picks, but you made a trade, but you didn't bring anything back, right? So basically, in order for you to get under luxury tax, you had to get rid of salary. Secondly, when you look at it, you say to yourself, Jared McCain, it doesn't make a lot of sense to trade him now. Now, they said they got those picks, but there were a lot of teams that didn't want them. Typically, when you make a trade like that and you acquire picks, you acquire because there's a team out there that says, if you get these picks, we will make a trade with you. So you typically don't get the trade. You don't make a trade and then later try to find a team to give it to.
Like,
right?
It's already set up, like a three-way, almost like a three-way.
Yeah, it's already set up. And when you say, like, well, maybe it just didn't work out and it didn't pan out, then people are like, okay, I understand that. But when you say there was a lot of teams that we tried to give it to and they didn't want them, like maybe you tried one team, they said, nah, we don't want it now, and other ones, but for the most part, when you make that move, you make it early. You make that decision is because you already have a team and that you have an agreement with. To me, I wouldn't have made the trade because, as you said, he's a nice young talent, and I get it. I know that he struggled, but I said this before to other people. My daughter is dealing with a knee injury, and typically what they say is you can come back within a year, but you're not going to be yourself back to the old self until maybe 5-6 months after you return. So for Jared McCain, that would have been towards the end of the season. Maybe we saw some benefits next season. And, you don't get rid of somebody like that. And you say right now we're going to sell high. Well, selling high would have been this summer. And then here's the third thing I'm going to just talk about. Like, if you really wanted to get a deal and a deal for value, you don't sell, you don't trade with Sam Presti. There are two people in this league that I will never trade with if I was an executive. One is Danny Ainge, the CEO of the Utah Jazz now.
Oh, yeah. Well, we've been burned by him. The Celtics, right?
You've been burnt by him. And the other one is Sam Presti. And so it's kind of like, if I know that, Daryl knows that as well. And not only that, Sam was kind of sort of like, yo, I'll give you a first-round pick for him, right? So my thing is you don't do that. And the reason why that's important, this is the first time that Oklahoma City surrendered a first-round pick in the trade since 2015. So they must know something about Jared McCain that the 76ers don't, right?
Yeah, but can't the same thing be said about the Sixers? Like they know something about Jared that, and I'll tell you, like I'm not a Jared McCain guy. Like I don't think he can play, and I don't think he fits. So what I would say is, if you can we're going to turn that into something else, and it fell through, then go for it, because Jared McCain's not really in the rotation. He's not going to be a guy that's going to get you to the NBA Finals. So you got to win right now. I mean, your window is just shrinking by the day. So I would have made this move in 2 seconds. I'm not that bent out of shape about it, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, but let me ask you this. You'd have made this move, but would you brought somebody else back in?
I would have tried. I certainly would have tried. I mean, and this leads me to believe, like, okay, were they going after Giannis? Were they going after?
Nah, come on, bro. Come on. Nah.
You know, were they going after somebody bigger?
You can't get Giannis for Jared McCain.
No. But
yeah.
could you with a slew of draft picks? What I'm saying is, what Maury said, which was, I was trying to take the draft picks, and what was the quote he used? He was trying to bring in someone that moves the needle. And so I do wonder, is he being truthful there? And he had those extra picks, and they were going to just package picks and maybe somebody else to bring back a guy that was going to move the needle. And look, maybe the Giannis thing is ridiculous, but somebody that would help this team get over the hump, and really get this team out of the second round and make a finals run, because it's been forever.
It's what you're saying can be true, and it has some truth to it. However, I do believe that this was also a move to help them get underneath the tax,
which I find interesting.
Yeah, I mean, because this is the 4th consecutive season that they've done something similar to it, and no matter how you try to do it, it's always going to be how you talk about it. It's going to be perceived to be that way, right? So now, again, maybe they did think that they could get someone, but you're going to have to get a star quality player. The problem is, and the thing about the Giannis thing is, and I think that's a lot of wishful thinking by a lot of people. Even when that report first came out, I was like, man, really? Because it wasn't amongst the initial report of the 4 teams that he wanted to go to. Then the next day it came out that, but I would like to play with Tyrese Maxey, right? So then everybody ran up on it. But when we look at assets, what assets do the 76ers have, right? And so this is part of the problem for them to be able to get a quality player, right? So when you want to get a quality player, you want to move a quality player, whatever, you have to have something that people want. Now, right now, the 76ers have 2 players who are deemed untouchable, and that's VJ Edgecombe and that's Tyrese Maxey. They have the biggest trade value out of anyone else, right? Then you might say it's Jared McCain. Now, even though Joel Embiid is showing flashes and extended flashes, I might add, of being back to his MVP caliber player, and Paul George was playing well, the problem is Embiid, no one knows what he's going to look like next year, the year after that, and so forth. And then
Would you move Joel?
You know what? I don't like, yes and no. Like, I don't know. Like, Joel is the big mystery. Like right now, if you have Joel Embiid, you're not as good as the other players are. Joel Embiid, when he's playing well, he's the reason why they're winning, right? So with that being said, I think that I would keep him now. Like, I wouldn't trade him this season, but you have to know, like, when we talk about you have more information than other people, then maybe I may in the offseason. But from what I'm seeing right now, I would keep him. Now, I would get him some help, but I would keep him. But in regards to Paul George, it's one of those things where, he's getting up there in age. He has a contract that, some teams may look at saying, okay, I'm giving him $50-something million a year, but he is maybe a 3rd or 4th option on a championship caliber team. That's a lot of money for that type of player. So, when we look at it, I think that when we talk about the 76ers getting involved and getting these type of marquee players that's going to help them win a championship, they just don't have it. I mean, you can lump Maxey into it. You can lump Edgecombe into it. But at least with the Edgecombe thing, you're going to have to give up some salary. And maybe if Paul George was on an expiring contract, then maybe you may do that. But if he has 2 years left, I think it's kind of hard for you to say, I'm going to take on Paul George's contract at this particular time.
You brought up Joel Embiid. I think it was a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. He was asked about the trade deadline after a game at home. And he's, kind of said that I don't really want this team to, I want this team to help us and not go under that luxury tax. And I'm asking that and saying that to say, what is the morale of the team, you think, right now? I mean, it seems like a lot of guys were bummed out that they traded McCain. And that doesn't mean it's the right decision or the wrong decision, but what do you think the morale of the team is right now? Because you also don't have Paul George as you're trying to make this, hopefully a championship run here in the East that looks wide open.
That's a great question. I think that when we watched when I saw the Lakers game afterwards, and I'm looking at how the guys are on the sidelines, how they're having fun, they seem to be upbeat and they were having fun. I think that they realize that, it's one of those things where you may have to do circle the wagon type thing. But I do think that the way that it went down, it's going to be tough for some of these guys, like the process. Like, for instance, Joel Embiid came out and said, hey, look, let's keep us together. Let's probably, if we're going to do something, let's add something, right? Because they did have an open roster spot that they could have added to. So I think that, a lot of the guys could be disappointed, not just because, they lost a guy, but who can make shots, hopefully, but a guy who was a great teammate, a guy who they all got into. I mean, love. Now, here's something. I know it can be different because we're in a social media age, but I've been covering this team for 13 seasons now, and I've never seen as many social media tributes to a guy being traded before. It was a lot of them. And on top of that, I've never seen a player like Tyrese Maxey come out and say, this one right here hurt, right? It hurt. And
they're just trying to get retweets, Keith. We know Jared McCain is so popular on TikTok. They're just trying to up their
I hope. Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know, Jeff. I don't know. I've been around a lot where locker rooms can be a little toxic, and where the Sixers in the past had chemistry issues. Jared McCain is a guy who a lot of these guys liked, and maybe can say you want to get retweets, but I don't think that
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Yeah, but I just don't think. I think that this one touched them. Now, again, can they move on? Can they regroup? Can they play? Yeah, I think they're professional enough to know that, and they know that this is a business. But I think the way that this one went down, especially when you have, now we can say whatever we want, but especially when you're playing as well as you are, and you have your franchise players say, hey, look, keep this group together, but bring in an additional player to help us out, right? And then you go ahead and you just so happen get below the luxury tax by getting rid of one of the favorites in the locker room. And this is the fourth season that something similar like that has happened. If you're on the team, you're looking and you're saying to yourself, do they really want to win here? You know what I mean? Do they really want to win? So, and again, they can say whatever they want, and who knows? People are going to disagree. Some people are going to say they're being truthful. Some people are saying they're trying to spin it, whatever. But the thing is, it happened 4 years in a row.
Yeah.
And you just wonder how the players are taking it after.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. I do say, and it kind of goes back to the original thing. It's like, if you're going to do this so-called 3-team trade where you have something lined up, okay, if you can move McCain, you bring those picks, use it somewhere else. At the same time, if it's not there, you can't force it. And I feel like the Sixers, similar to me, it's kind of like the Iverson years where they're trying to find all these different guys. They would try to find all these different guys that could play with Allen Iverson, and it just wasn't working. Okay, they got to the finals in the 1 year, and we just celebrated the 25-year anniversary of the 01 team. But it feels similar to me with Joel Embiid. I mean, they're trying all these different guys, from Paul George and James Harden and Jimmy Butler and all these different guys to play around Embiid, and they just can't find that perfect combination and really just find, this nucleus where they can just run with it, gel together, learn how to win close games, learn to have that chemistry together. And I agree with you, just watching them play this year, and you're closer to the team than I am, but watching them play this year and seeing what goes on, it just feels like there's more chemistry this year. It feels like this is a better thing. At the same time, Can this team win? And Daryl Morey yesterday said that he believes that this team can make a run. And I do still wonder, okay, the East is wide open, and I'm not buying the Pistons per se, but I still have an issue saying when it push comes to shove, who's your killer? Who's the guy that's taking that shot with 2 seconds to go? You're down one in a close game, in a playoff game. Like Joel Embiid has turnover issues in the final seconds. I don't think they're a great team in these clutch, crunch time moments. I do wonder, like, who's your guy? Who's your go-to? But do you believe this team can make a NBA Finals Eastern Conference run, get past that second round?
That's a great question. Like, this is what I would say about this team. I think that this team is the most dangerous team in the NBA, right?
Why?
Because I feel like on any given night they can beat a team, but at the same time at the same time they can lose to any team in the league as well. So that's the crazy part, right? I mean, when you look at it, I think though when you look at the 76ers, you have to say that they do have a chance because of that dangerous part. Just because if Joel Embiid is playing the way he's playing, right? And it takes a lot of the pressure off of Tyrese Maxey to try to have to carry the team. And then if Paul George, is out there when he gets back and he's doing the things that he does as far as providing quality D and facilitating and being his role. And then you add the VJ Edgecombe effect to it and the Don Barlow and Kelly Oubre and guys like that. I do think that they have a chance. Now the scary part to me is, like, again, whenever you get a totally bought in with the Sixers, sometimes they give you a reality check and then they suffer a bad loss, right?
Or an injury.
Yeah. And that's the most important thing, the injury aspect. And that's why I think there are some people are not committed to saying, oh, yeah, they can go all the way. It's always like they can go all the way if Joel Embiid remains healthy, right? Or they can try to get out of it. But the scary part is that, and I know that Daryl Morey said a lot of these moves didn't move the needle. But when I look at the Boston Celtics and I see that they got Nick Vucevic, and we look at the centers that they had, like they had 3 centers who, if you can name 2 of them, the average fan could name 2 of them, I'd give them $1,000, right? It's just how it was, right? But at the same time, they were playing well. So then you go out there and get Vucevic. Some people might say what they want about James Harden, but James Harden is a guy who's a point guard that loves giving up lobs to players and doing things. So I just feel like teams made upgrades and the Sixers didn't. So what that does is it puts more pressure on the 76ers team to stay healthy. And when we talk about Jared McCain and we say like some people may feel the way they feel about him, what happens if Tyrese Maxey or VJ Edgecombe or Quentin Grimes, one of the 3 guys, get hurt? Well, who's going to step up and come off the bench right now? Is it going to be Kyle Lowry? Are we going to have to play Kyle Lowry, or are we going to have imbalanced lineups? So to me, that's the only pause I have right now, is because I don't feel like at this particular time, as of today, the 76ers didn't make any upgrades comparable to what other teams have made.
And that is such a great point. The injury factor, okay, where McCain could come in, and that is a brilliant point there that you make. And you talk about having guys, not having guys, and you mentioned Paul George suspended, and he's going to come back with 10 games to go. How much of a challenge do you think it'll be? Because we talked about all the changes this team has made over the years, trying to find the right combination with Joel. It seemed like they had the chemistry, as you mentioned, that was just really just going forward. And as Brett Brown used to say, deliver a team to the playoffs. Well, now you have this just kind of like punch in the face with Paul George. How do you think he's going to be able to get back and return to this team? And then all of a sudden they're going to be able to gel with 10 games to go and figure this out to hopefully make a run here.
Yeah, it's weird because, when we talked about Nick Nurse, when you talked about Nick, all he wanted was to have the big 3 out there gelling together, filling out a role, doing things. For Paul George's role this season, it's not like you would think that it would be a tough transition for him to come back. But at the same time, you do want him out there just getting these quality reps. I mean, to a point, think about this. Before, they were staggering him and Embiid on back-to-backs, depending on, one guy would play one game, the next guy would play the other one. They scrapped that. What they did is they had them both miss the same game and then come back with it, right? So I do think that even though the stuff that Paul is doing as being a third option and a defender or fourth option, you may think that is seamless, but I do think that they are going to miss him, because the thing is, it's not just about Paul, it's about establishing the role of Don Barlow moving forward and establishing the role of Kelly Oubre, right? Both of these guys are playing extremely well, but you have to figure out which route are you going to go. And the one thing that we saw before Paul was injured was we saw that starting lineup was getting destroyed on the glass, right? So they were going to tweak it a little bit. So whereas one of the guys were going to come off the bench, and then what happens is with that being said, you need that person X amount of games to play that role to get used to it.
All right, so I'm going to put you on the spot. Final thing for you. Did the Sixers finally get out of the second round of the playoffs?
Man, that's you know what? That's a tough one, man. It really is, because it's.
Oh, I was hoping for a simple yes.
But I'll say a tough one. But I'll probably say no.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean,
wow.
But it also is dependent on where they go, right? I mean, I do think that they can beat Toronto if they match up against them, right? Or whatever. Maybe the 2-3 seed. It's tough, man. Jeff, is really tough, because right now a lot of that is, if you say that Joel Embiid is healthy and Paul George is a good mix, I say yeah, they have a chance. But if not, they're not getting out of the second round.
It's been brutal, man. I mean, you think about it, since 2001, and they just celebrated the 25-year anniversary with Allen Iverson and that group and Pat Croce, and I just think, man, I can't believe it's been that long, which is crazy. It's crazy. Any event, Keith, great insight. I really appreciate you joining us. You do a great job covering the Philadelphia 76ers for the Philadelphia Inquirer. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
All right, great seeing you. Keith Pompey does an amazing job covering the Philadelphia 76ers for the Philadelphia Inquirer. And, of course, Sixers fans probably going to have an eye on that Thunder Rockets game later today at 3:30. And, of course, the Sixers playing the Suns tonight in Phoenix at 9 o'clock. And, Keith, not a fan of trading away Jared McCain. I would disagree with him on that and say, look, I understand that he set an NBA rookie record by making at least three-pointers in 8 straight games last November. He also scored 20 or more points in 7 straight games. He earned Eastern Conference Rookie of the Month honors for November last year. But outside of that, again, I'm not a fan of Jared McCain, and I know he's a good guy. I know he's fun. He's a great follow on TikTok and all that other jazz, and I know that his teammates like him, but I just don't think he's a part of this nucleus. He's not playing. He's not in the rotation. When he is playing, he's just not up to speed. And maybe it's like Keith said, he compared it to his daughter's knee injury. Maybe he's just not fully there with the knee injury. He had the thumb thing. But, a sophomore season has tested him in a lot of ways. He's had a lot of conversations with management, with the Sixers and Coach Nick Nurse about, being mentally ready. But I just don't think he can play. And if you're able to take those picks, turn them into something else, which they haven't done yet, but you'd like to think, okay, in the offseason or at the draft, that they'll do that. I'm all for it. And I think that they did sell high. I agree with Daryl Morey. But, what Morey said, which was interesting, was that they weren't looking to trade Jared McCain, that OKC essentially reached out to them. And McCain, look, he's right now dealing with a lot of emotions. He was emotional when he found out that Jared McCain said he was emotional when he found out that he was being traded. He was on the team bus with the Sixers in Los Angeles, and he told Tyrese Maxey that he was being traded, and everyone was kind of shocked. And he said he never saw it coming. He never saw it coming, and the Sixers kind of admitted, again, they were not looking to trade, him. So listen to Jared McCain. Here's McCain yesterday talking about being traded to Oklahoma City and his emotions after leaving the Sixers.
No, not at all. We were all on the bus to the airport, and I just got a call and had no feeling, I didn't think it was gonna happen, to be honest. No, there was nothing, and I got the call and then just went and told everybody. I went to Tyrese first, and it was pretty emotional.
Mark talked about how tough that is for you. I mean, how, I guess, quick did you feel like you had to get over it, or like was it any times you spent like, dang, this sucks?
I think I'm still like, I allow myself to feel all the emotion. It's natural. Give myself grace through this process, but you definitely you move quick. I touched down in LA and then had to come straight here, so it's a little bit of both. I think it's a balance you got to work through, but I'm definitely still going through it and still trying to cope with it.
Any Thunder players talk to you after you got the news?
Yeah. They most of them texted me, just saying, let me know if you have any questions. Glad you're a part of the team. Just very helpful and welcoming just to have those people text me.
Who do you think you can get along? First impression.
I mean, really the whole team. I mean, Jay Will. I've seen. I mean, all of them though. I think I'll get along with the whole team.
Speaking of Jay Will, I think he mentioned that him and Wiggs were like in an elevator with you in Vegas during the Cup or something like that. Do you remember anything about that interaction? I know it was brief.
I mean, I think so. I do remember. I don't know what happened. I don't remember anything about that, but I do kind of recall seeing them during the Cup.
Gotcha.
Those two guys are out right now in terms of Shea and Dub, but how do you envision yourself playing alongside and off those guys?
Yeah, I think, whatever coach has planned for me, I'm willing to do. That could be spot up shooting, it could be whatever it is. I'm willing to do it, and I'm just happy to be a part of this culture and this program.
Jared, Mark talked about you've gone through a lot at a young age. Can you just sort of summarize your NBA career? Such a great start, and then the injury wrecked it. Now getting back and playing, now being traded.
Yeah.
How would you summarize your NBA?
Yeah, I feel like I've had a lot of experience in a small amount of time. I think I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason, and I've gone through the highs and lows, and there's going to be more to come. But I think just trying to stay even and trying to just stick with it, just continue to work hard and just know that it's all going to come together. But I would summarize this. I think it's been amazing. My life is amazing. I get to play basketball and get paid to do it. So I try to keep that in perspective of all times, but there's obviously little things that are going to happen that definitely can mess up that. And you just got to stay even and try to, talk with your family, talk with the people around you that you care most about.
Daryl said that he probably so high on you at the deadline. When you hear that, what just got goes through your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get to talk to him much at all when he called me, but yeah, I don't know.
That's interesting. Didn't talk to Daryl Morey much about what happened, and it's this quick exit. And, you can tell there's a range of emotions there. He seems sad. He seems happy, and he's going to go to a team that won the NBA Finals. And I don't think the Sixers are in position to win the NBA Finals. There's a lot of holes. We talked about it with Keith Pompey moments ago. And, I understand McCain's, so-called excited to go to the Thunder. And I think he's going to be a good fit there. He's going to learn from some really good young players. But what about here? I mean, can this Sixers team make a deep playoff run? I agree with Keith that I don't think that they can get out of the second round of the playoffs. I just don't. And I think that Joel Embiid is this amazing player. I do. But in the playoffs, who are you giving that ball to take that game-winning shot? I mean, you see it with Embiid all the time. He's not a great dribbler. Ball comes flopping out. And lots of turnovers. They struggle in clutch, close games to win. Their record's not great in those games. And in the playoffs, you got to have that heart and that hunger and this injuries and who's playing, who's not playing. Is Joel playing? Can he play back-to-backs? How's he feeling? And I'm not blaming it all on Joel, but it's just the facts. And is Tyrese Maxey or VJ Edgecombe, are you handing one of them? Are they your killer? I mean, they haven't had a killer in my mind since Jimmy Butler. And Jimmy Butler was that killer, and you weren't able to hang on to him. And I'm not blaming the Sixers for that. I do believe Jimmy wanted to go to Miami. And I know Jimmy made this whole thing about it was Tobias Harris over me, and I think that's all baloney. I don't think that was the case. The Sixers knew they weren't going to be able to resign Jimmy Butler, but I just don't think this Sixers team, even with Paul George, even with Edgecombe and Maxey, and Embiid, that they are going to be able to make this run. I think the Pistons have more heart, and I think the Celtics have more heart, even without Jason Tatum. And I believe the Knicks are going to figure it out. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, because Sixers basketball in the playoffs could be just amazing. But Joel Embiid, he's playing really well. Playing as well or better than anyone expected at this point after everything he's been through. And it sounds like Daryl Morey believes that the Sixers can make a championship run. Take a listen to Daryl Morey he believes that even without McCain and even without them being able to take those picks and bring in someone else that can move the needle, he still believes in this team. Listen to Daryl Morey.
This team, we think, can make a deep playoff run and is one of the top few teams of the East. We feel like that's still the case going forward. We were very careful to make sure that the core parts of the rotation were intact. Yeah, we like our chances in the East. We feel like we're in the mix with the top teams there. Obviously, we got to prove that on the court. But yeah, I'm just reiterating. Yeah, we were hoping to add and we didn't add. So, but we still believe in this team. Like, it's still the team that people believed in. Folks have speculated on the improvements of our East competitors. I don't see it personally. I think all the teams, made moves at the deadline, but there weren't any needle movers in my opinion. We have some, as close to untouchable players as you might have in this league, and Tyrese and Joel and VJ, Paul. Like, we like our core. We really think it's a very good core. Obviously, we need to prove that on the court, and I think lately we have been proving it to a higher level. But yeah, I'd say we have, as close as you get to untouchable. We talked a lot about, we thought that Joel could still get to this level and play this level, and I think there was a lot of very reasonable skepticism that that's the case. But all I ever had was talking to our medical staff and doctors, and there was a lot of confidence that he could get to this place if he puts the time in, and he has. And so I feel like that one, has played out in a positive way, and we do think it's sustainable, and we are excited about it. I would say the team that's been playing well is still out there and still in a good shape, and we feel like the future is better as well.
And I hope that Daryl Morey is right about that. I hope this team can make a run. I'm not feeling it, and I know they have, again, studs in Paul George and Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, and Edgecombe's going to be an all-star. He's going to be a stud with his work ethic and his talent. I'm just not feeling the Sixers. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. All right, BetParks, one and only online sportsbook and casino app. It's a great app. Download the BetParks app and join me now. Your bets on the big game in February could win you season tickets to your local pro football team. It's the big game season ticket giveaway from BetParks. BetParks online sportsbook app has you covered for the big game, as Seattle is a 4.5-point favorite against the New England Patriots. All new and existing BetParks customers earn one entry to win season tickets on every $25 bet they make on the big game in the Super Bowl. Your big game wagers get you entries for a chance to win season tickets to your home state pro football team for all BetParks new and existing users in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, and Michigan. Yes, a $25 wager. A $25 wager on the big game gets you registered for a chance to win season tickets to either the Eagles, the Birds in Philly, the Black and Gold in Pittsburgh, and the Steelers, the Baltimore Ravens, or the Detroit Lions. Yes, you could win season tickets to one of your favorite teams. So BetParks users across all states will be randomly drawn to receive BetParks bonus bets, and one grand prize winner will receive season tickets to their local pro football team. in the NFL. Terms and conditions apply. See betparks.com. You must be 21 or older, located in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, or Michigan. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. It is the big game season ticket giveaway from BetParks. We've talked a lot about the Super Bowl. We've talked about the Eagles situation. We talked to Omar Ruiz from NFL Network with some great insight about Sean Mannion and as well as some other things going on out in San Francisco. And, of course, we just talked to Keith Pompey of the Philadelphia Inquirer about the Philadelphia 76ers and everything going on there after the NBA trade deadline and getting rid of Jared McCain. Let's talk about the Flyers. And we don't talk a lot about the Flyers, and I get it because they've just been awful for just decades. And I'm sorry, just awful. And there's nothing like playoff hockey. But man, oh man, I mean, is that a sight for sore eyes or what? This team hasn't made the playoffs in 6 years. They haven't made it out of the second round since 2012. 2012. And we're in the second rebuild with this Flyers team. And I'll give you one, but 2 rebuilds. And the 2 teams that play, you know, the Xfinity Mobile Arena, the old Wells Fargo Center, whatever you want to call it, have just had a just bad product for decades. And I know there's Joel Embiid and the Sixers have trying, but the Flyers, man, like it's a tough product to watch. And let's be blunt, the Philadelphia Flyers just feels like they're a mess right now. It's the same old, same old. They're not teetering on irrelevance, but they have no star players. You know, they don't have the Alexander Ovechkins or the Sidney Crosbys or the Connor McDavids and those, so-called star players. And I know the other first 2 I mentioned are, well past their prime. But I just look at this Flyers team and I just go, what? Like, I want to get excited about the Flyers and I just can't. They've lost 12 of their last 15 games. They haven't won back-to-back games in January 3rd or the 6th. And there's no so-called star players. It's just been this revolving door of just guys. Some are heading to the Olympics, but like, I'm sorry. I cannot get around and buy into these Flyers. First, the record really just says it all. Just 25, 20, and 11 right now. They're barely over 500. They've lost 12 of 15, as I said. Outscored 62-38 over the stretch. They haven't won those back-to-back games since early January. They're third in the Metropolitan Division, or they were third. Now they're 6th. It's not just a slump. It just feels like they're spiraling. And maybe this rebuilding team kind of hit that high mark early on, and it's all going to even out. Maybe it will. But there was at least a little bit of buzz when they were playing well, and now it's just dead. And this franchise used to be just amazing. And I know they haven't won the cup since the 70s and all that, but this team in the 80s and in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, they were relevant year in and year out. And even that Stanley Cup run they had against the Blackhawks, they just haven't been the same since. And so I know it's frustrating not only for the fan base and for the players, but the front office. I mean, Danny Briere, now running the team with Keith Jones. I know they feel it too. Danny Briere, essentially called an emergency press conference this week with everything going on with Matvei Michkov. And, he was kind of asked about where things stand going into this 19-day Olympic break and this pause. And maybe it's a good thing because there is no momentum with this team. Everyone just needs to maybe get away and clear their heads. But listen to Danny Briere here is, they're not going to resume practice until February 17th. They don't play again on February 25th. And I'm kind of like, good riddance. I mean, this team is just not fun to watch for me. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't. But here's Danny Briere and where the team stands.
Just wanted to address a little bit of the noise that is going around, especially when it comes to a little bit of a rocky patch that we've hit lately. I know it's upset a lot of people, but it's just the reality of, a team growing. Early in the season, when we were, fighting for one of the top position in the division, we realized that, that was probably a little ahead of schedule. I was probably getting better results that, was warranted at the time. what's happened now, the way we've been playing lately and what's happening, I also know that, it's not as bad as the way we've been playing. So we're somewhere in between all that. It's important to keep even keel. One thing I've learned, as a player, is not to get too high when things are going well, not to get too low when things are sliding. So, that's how we feel. We've said all along that, our players would tell us, when it's time, but we're, it's still part of the rebuild. We're still dealing with a young team that, is learning how to face those tough games, those tough experiences. That's all part of the process. So that's number one.
Danny, can you maybe comment on what Keith said at the Carnival regarding telling the coaching staff that the other players need to play?
Great. Those are always discussions that we always have within the staff. We always talk about that, and that's part of the rebuild, right? That's everybody's aware that, we're trying to build a team that's going to be, good and contend for Stanley Cups down the road, not just to make one appearance in the playoffs and then miss out the following year. Like, we're trying to create a team here that's going to be good for years to come. So that's kind of the direction that it was meant for.
And I believe Danny Briere. I covered him as a player. I like Danny Briere. He's been around the game his whole life. He knows the ins and the outs. I just don't think they have the talent, and it's not coaching. They just don't have the talent. And they keep changing coaches and to this guy, to that guy. And hockey changes coaches at a ridiculous pace. They just don't have the talent, and that's the bottom line. And the Olympic break is not going to fix this. I just don't. And maybe they're going to get hot, and maybe they're going to teeter on a playoff run. But we're in the second rebuild. I'm over it. I'm just over this Flyers team in the second rebuild here. And when I talk about the fact that they don't really have star players, their best player, in my opinion, the guy with the most talent is having a disastrous second season. Matvei Michkov. Head coach Rick Tocchet addressed the Matvei Michkov situation, the reduced ice time after a season low in minutes played after their overtime loss to the Kings. And, Tocchet reiterated the stance is that Michkov did not show up to training camp in shape. And he's been trying to play catch up this whole season. And you're like, these guys, you have one opportunity. Your window to win, your window to play professional sports is so small. You have no other job. Show up in shape. And I hope this is a learning lesson. I hope this is one of these, like, hey, I'm facing adversity and I'm going to learn. But he showed up not in shape. And now he's trying to play catch up. And he's not playing. And Flyers fans are like, hey, your most talented guy is not playing. What's going on here? And Tocchet, he didn't bash the guy. He just kept it real. I want you to listen to this. He did this interview last weekend with PHLY. And I'm just fascinated by this. Like, Rick Tocchet is basically saying, not in a mean way, he's just keeping it real. Like, Matvei Michkov is not in shape. And, kind of like he has no one to blame but himself. Listen to this conversation.
Yesterday, Matvei Michkov.
Sure.
10 minutes of ice time. The fans that I have spoken to are not happy about some of the things that have gone on since you've been here with the young player that we were all so excited about a year ago. What does he have to do to get to that level and earn your trust so he can play the minutes people like me think he should get?
So you think he should get it because he's earned it, because he came, like, we've talked about it, and I'll be very frank, and Charlie, I'm a very frank guy, honestly. I go down swinging. Yeah. Matty did not come into camp in shape, and it's hard to play yourself in shape. I have not told him or any other players, take a guy one-on-one, come out of the corner with a puck, on a rush, like, make a play through rush. He's having a tough time in those situations. So, yeah, you could say, well, other players try. I mean, I get it. Maybe they don't have the skill set, but we're trying to get them to that level, right? How to develop him, practice, making sure that you're on time for treatments and things like that. There's so much into that. The way you eat, the way, like, that's it. You don't become a star because you think, oh, this guy. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking in general.
Yeah, sure.
Any person. Look at Trevor Zegras. A couple of bad years he comes here, bought into a couple of things, and he's doing a hell of a job for us. He's a little bit of a slump, and I was trying to get him through the center position, see if I think there's a time to try it right now, whether we can do or not. We'll see, and keep putting him out there. But so that's just. I don't know if I've answered the question, but that's kind of the rules of winning, right? The crest supersedes everything, not individuals. That's how I believe.
I heard a key thing in there. Make sure you're on time for treatment. You're not in shape and you're not on time for your treatment? Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And I don't want to hear he's from in a different country and he's a young guy. What are you doing? If you're going to be the future so-called star of this team, I hope he gets us out of his system. And I hope that Tocchet not playing him and the frustration from the fans and the frustration internally sets the record straight. And I hope he comes back from this Olympic break and works his tail off over this, nearly 3 week span and figures this out. Because if the Flyers are going to take it to the next level, they need this guy to get his act together and not be a clown, not coming into shape, and not showing up to treatment on time. And at some point, the conversation around Matvei Michkov has to move past your feelings and the hype and land squarely on his responsibility as a professional athlete. I don't want to hear that he's young. He's so talented. And last season, he looked like the future face of this franchise that could be a star in this league. But those little things, that separates you from the best of the best. There's a lot of talent in professional sports, but the best of the best work at it. I mean, LeBron James in the NBA is a freak of nature, but he works his tail off at it. And, the same can be said about Joel Embiid. There's a lot of questions about Embiid. All the talent in the world. Does he really work at it? And I know he's had the injuries, but does he really just work at it? No one ever talks about Joel Embiid's work ethic. And so the same can be said for the Flyers. You need Matvei Michkov to have some work ethic here. And showing up in a training camp in shape, I mean, this isn't like the 1980 Flyers, the 1980 Phillies or the Eagles where guys back in the day would show up and get into shape in training camp. I mean, there has been a huge statistical drop-off. It's not subtle. I mean, last season, Michkov led all the NHL rookies in 26 goals, finished tied for second in points with 63. He was electric, confident. He was impactful every single night. This season, he's on pace for 19 goals, 43 points. That's 54 games he's gone. And then, so let me get this straight. So through 54 games, he's gone 13 goals and 29 points this season. I just don't get it. I just don't get it with this guy. I wouldn't play him either, and I don't blame Rick Tocchet, and fans shouldn't be mad at Rick Tocchet. He's told you this a few times. And this one has kind of blown things up and like I said, forced Danny Briere to call emergency press conference. We're going to hear from that in a second, but you gotta earn your ice time, the trust, the skills there. You have to earn ice time. And he's not an Alexander Ovechkin or Sidney Crosby type. I mean, are you kidding me? His ice time tells the story. I mean, last season, he averaged 16 minutes, 41 seconds per game. This year, he's down more than 2 minutes per game. Okay, coaches don't slash minutes for fun. Rick Tocchet wants to win. Danny Briere wants to win. The Flyers, they want to win. But talent's only going to get you so far. So Rick Tocchet, very blunt, as you heard there, just about White. And he wasn't throwing him under the bus, and he wasn't being mean. It didn't sound like it was spiteful like you would hear from John Tortorella last year about certain guys. I thought it was just very blunt and very honest, and Tocchet, that's the way he's wired. And as a Philadelphia fan base, you got to appreciate that. But Michkov did not arrive in camp in shape. And, there's been a lot of back and forth, and people are starting to chatter about this. And Danny Briere's like, whoa, I'm going to nip this in the bud. We're not trading Matvei Michkov. And I want you to hear this because, Briere, back in the day, I mean, Bobby Clark wouldn't do something like this over the Lindros stuff, but Briere just kind of jumps out in front of this and is like, we're not trading Matvei Michkov. It's a situation we're going to figure it out. But even Briere said, look, this guy's got to get in shape. Here's Danny Briere.
The other thing is the Rick Tocchet, Matvei Michkov that's out there. One thing I can tell you, first of all, is Matvei Michkov is not going anywhere. Let's make that clear, okay? Matvei is going to be here for a long time. He's going to be a good player here for the Flyers, and what he's going through right now is all part of the learning process. So that's out of the way. It's not going anywhere. He'll be here. He'll be a good player. You don't know what you don't know. Matvei arrived here, and him along with guys like Denver Barkey and Nikita Gurbankin, they're learning how to become better pros. Now, you don't know before you arrive to the NHL what it's like on a daily basis and the grind and everything that's attached to it. And they're learning. And that's what Rick Tocchet is trying to teach them. I've been through it. Keith Jones has been through it. Rick Tocchet has been through it. It's all part of the process. You could go in our locker room, you can ask guys like Jamie Drysdale, Bobby Brink, Tyson Forster, Cam York. They've all been through it. When you arrive, it's tough. And that's where we were fortunate. I said it a couple of years ago when Matvei arrived earlier than expected. We knew there would be some, bumps along the way, and that's kind of what is happening. The other thing I can tell you, and I talk to Rick Tocchet on a daily basis, he wants Matvei to succeed. He wants to develop him to be the best player he can be. And along the way, there's tough lessons that comes with that. That's like raising a child. There's tough lessons that he's learning. It doesn't matter if he's playing 12, 14, 16, or even if he was playing 52 minutes a night. He's learning along the way. That's part of the process, and it's going to make him a better player along the way, and Rick Tocchet wants that. He wants to be here for the long haul to lead this team. Him and Matvei, as they have a good relationship, sometimes they're fiery, sometimes, when you're not winning, things are done and said, but they always come back to the table and they want the best for this team, and Rick wants the best for Matvei. I know there were some comments, regarding, missing treatments and from Rick Tocchet at the Carnival. Those comments were made, in relations to trying to explain how players are learning along the way. He wasn't targeting Matvei. Matvei is learning, and there's things that, have happened along the way, just like they've happened with, the Denver Barkeys, Gurbankin, and, if you ask Trevor Zegras, I'm sure there's things like that. He's trying to teach these guys to become better pros, making sure that everything off the ice is taken care of. Treatments is one of them. Trainings, workouts are part of it. Your nutrition, getting massage to make sure you're prepared for the next game, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of stuff that comes into play when you're learning to become a better pro. So that's what's happening. Don't forget that, guys like Travis Konechny has gone through it. Just a few years ago, he went from, I think, the first few seasons where he scored 24 goals, I think 3 years in a row, and then all of a sudden, he went 2 seasons where he couldn't get to 20 goals. That's how we got Trevor Zegras. That's how we got Owen Tippett. I've been through it myself. There's ups and downs along the way, and that's what, Matvei and almost everybody else, have gone through. Unless you're Wayne Gretzky, and probably didn't hit too much bumps along the way. Most players are going through it. That's all it is. And I wanted to make sure that was clear. Well, we're trying to do everything we can to help him out. I'm not going to go in details and everything that we do. That would be fair to him. But we've provided everything that can help him to to become, the player he can be. And that along the way is what I was just talking about, the things that we're teaching him along the way to become a best pro. And, one thing I know about Matvey is how driven he is. He wants to be the best player he can be. He admitted himself that he wasn't in the best physical condition coming in. It's going to be tough to catch up. Now he's in better shape than he was when he arrived this season. Unfortunately, everybody is in better shape than they were training camp. So it's really tough for him to catch up with the amount of games that we have, the amount of travel that we have. It's just tough for him to catch up in season. He's going to do that in the off season. It was a good lesson for him. And it's just going to make him a better hockey player coming next year.
Is there any concern that, maybe Mape didn't make the best first impression and then he might not be able to overcome that with Rick over the long term?
Well, if you mean that, he showed up, he wasn't in the best physical condition, that's true. And Matvey was the first one to admit it. But, Rick knows how important he is to the future of this organization. He wants to make it work. The coaching staff have probably spent more time with him trying to help him out. So there's no problem with the relationship there. It's, when you win, everybody's happy. When you lose and you don't score goals, obviously guys, get a little testy. But I don't see any issues between the two of them. They are both very critical of themselves, and they both have that inner drive. I played with Rick Tocchet. I see how Matvey is. They're both very driven individual, and they want the best for the team and for the Flyers.
Let's hope that settles it. Let's hope Matvey Michkov has learned his lesson, and not only that, but Tocchet coming out, Danny Briere coming out, and saying what they said. Hopefully that's a wake-up call, because he's your best bet, right, for the future. All right, Parks Casino, a great place for a night of entertainment and award-winning dining. Parks Casino has something for everyone's entertainment taste. February 7th, tonight. Piano Man Generations, a tribute show to Elton John and Billy Joel. Coming up later this month, country artist Brett Young on February 28th. Candlebox, March 6th, that's a Friday. And then comedian Tracy Morgan will be here from SNL, March 14th. April 3rd, Cheap Trick. Saturday, April 18th, Melissa Etheridge will be here May 14th, the Wallflowers. For tickets to any of the great shows coming up here at Parks Casino, check out parkscasino.com. You must be 21 to gamble. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. So, Super Bowl XLIX tomorrow, Seattle and New England. Seahawks 4.5-point favorites, and the Patriots, you have to wonder, would they be here in Super Bowl XLX without former Eagle Milton Williams? And when he left here, he said the Eagles did not offer him a contract, didn't hear from them. And I would tell you, look, I mean, this time last year, Milton Williams had an amazing Super Bowl. He's a big reason why they dominated Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. But come on, $100 million for Milton Williams? Patriots, go take him. But he was unbelievable. And he kind of joked during Super Bowl day, Super Bowl media day, who has a better fan base, Philly or Boston? And I love what he said. He goes, quote, "It's even, but I feel like the Patriots fans, they don't want to get in trouble. Philly fans, they don't care about nothing. They don't care if they go to jail." That is former Eagles defensive tackle Milton Williams. I love it. He can become only the sixth player to win the Super Bowl in back-to-back seasons on different active rosters. Other ones, like Garrett Blunt, who did it with the Patriots and then the Eagles in 2017. So did Chris Long. LaShawn McCoy did it with the Chiefs and then the Bucks. And then Ken Norton and Deion Sanders, they did it as well. But Milton Williams, in last year's Super Bowl, was remarkable. Remarkable. Remember what Milton Williams did last year. 2 sacks, 4 total tackles, 1 quarterback hit, a fumble recovery. Milton Williams in the Super Bowl last year had a 92.6 pass rush grade from Pro Football Focus. That was the best among defensive tackles in a Super Bowl. And he never got a contract offer from the Eagles in free agency. 4 years, $104 million from the Patriots. Too rich, I think, to give Milton Williams if you're the Eagles. But he's been a great fit there. In 17 games last year with the Eagles, 418 pass rushes, 5 sacks, 10 quarterback hits. Not amazing. He was not killing it for the Eagles. except for the Super Bowl, and he had a nice playoff run. He's having a great playoff run now, and Patriots quarterback Drake May says, Mike Vrabel pointed out to the Patriots ahead of their divisional game against the Texans that Milton Williams was their only player of the Patriots that was still playing this time last year. And, he made that Super Bowl run with the Eagles, and a lot of them have rallied behind him. And he's had an unbelievable first season with the Patriots. And the difference that he has made with the Patriots is just remarkable. And it's hard to do when you make that kind of money and you go to a new team. I do think it's hard, but I want to show you this stat. The Patriots defense, inside A and B gap runs, okay? The Patriots D versus inside A and B gap runs, 14 games with Milton Williams, okay? Best among the last 5 years, okay, in yards per carry. 49% stuff rate, third best. And in the 6 games without Milton Williams, they're worst in the NFL in yards per carry. And they're 32.5% stuff rate, worst by a full 10%. And so whether you know what those numbers mean or not, here's the difference. Milton Williams is the difference. He's been a huge difference maker for this Patriots team, and that's why they're here. That's why they have a shot to win the Super Bowl tomorrow. And so Super Bowl Sunday, Patriots, Seahawks 4.5-point favorites, but not if Milton Williams has anything to do about it. It should be a great game, and hopefully the Birds are back here this time next year. All right, well, that'll do it for us on Bet Park Saturday from the Sportsbook at Parks Casino here on the Philadelphia in Bensalem, Pennsylvania on the PHLY Sports YouTube page. Thank you to all of our great guests, from Omar Ruiz from the NFL Network to, of course, Brad Feinberg, some great insight. He likes the Patriots to win this game and to cover. And, of course, big thanks to Keith Pompey as we got into the whole Philadelphia 76ers situation. So great show. Great seeing you. Hopefully you win some money on those bets for the Super Bowl XLVIII tomorrow. Patriots, Seahawks. Should be a great one. For my producer, Julia Hoff, I'm Jeff Skaversky. Thanks for watching here on the PHLY Sports YouTube page from Parks Casino in Bensalem. We'll see you back here next weekend.